Alright, this is the Sony A80J, and I'm going to show how to set up the Xbox Series X. And what you first want to do is go to your settings. You want to have the Xbox in port 4, ideally. You can use 3, but if you need eARC, then you have to use it for that. And you want to go to your HDMI signal format, and whatever HDMI port, whether it's 3 or 4, like I said, I prefer 4 so that way I can have eARC from my receiver. You want to go here and make sure it's on enhanced format. Once that's done, go into your Xbox settings. It should say 4K, 120 Hz. Go into your 4K TV details, and as you can see, Dolby Vision is crossed off. If you want to use Dolby Vision, then you're going to have to go change that to the Dolby Vision Enhanced instead of regular Enhanced. You cannot use Dolby Vision and 4K 120 Hz setting at the same time. So now we're going to go back. In your video modes, you can see everything here. The TV does not support auto low latency mode yet, but we can, here, fidelity, keep this at 10-bit, color space standard. And now if we go to calibrate HDR for games, that puts the TV into HDR mode. We're going to picture settings. It's on game because I already selected game previously for SDR. And what we want to do is go to your HDR tone mapping and turn that off. This is not HGIG, but we need to turn it off to set up the Xbox to communicate with the TV the right way. So on that first screen, just make sure it's all the way black, all the way left. On this screen, let me see if I'm going to be able to show this or not. Okay. Bring this down all the way left. So that's 300 nits when it's all the way left. Each click to the right is going to be 50. So 350, 400, 450, 500, 550, 600, 650, 700, 750, 800, 850, 900, 950, and 1000. Now hit next, and we're going to do the same thing. Turn this all the way left. So we're at 300, 350, 4, 450, 5, 550, 6, 650, 7, 750, 8, 850, 9, 950, 1000. Hit next. Now, go back into your picture settings. Go back to the tone mapping and set that to gradation preferred. And now that is set up properly for HDR with the Xbox. Alright, and now, because we are in 4K 120 Hz, something I want to show you is, let's use Fortnite for example here. Alright, now something the Xbox lets you do. Fortnite has a 120 FPS mode, but as you saw in the settings, we have the Xbox set to 120 Hz. So we do not have to enable this to get the TV to 120 Hz. It's already there. If we leave 120 FPS mode off, then we get all the graphical detail, we don't get the cut in resolution, the game will render at 60 FPS, but it will frame double its way up to 120 for the television, and the point of that is then, instead of the 16 milliseconds-ish of input lag at 60 Hz that the TV has, you get that cut in half to 8 milliseconds, assuming that it matches the A90J. I know that's what the A90J was tested at. This hasn't been tested yet that I've seen for input lag, but assuming that it's the same as the A90J, that's the way that it works. So the game is rendering at full detail at 60 frames per second, but the Xbox is telling the TV, run at 120 Hz. Let's duplicate the frames so that you can have the lower input lag. Now, if you want the 120 FPS mode on, you can do that. But then if the frame rate is dropping a little bit because the TV doesn't have VRR, then you can get some screen tearing, you can get some stutters, and it may not look so smooth. So I recommend, at least until Sony brings out VRR, just using the 60 FPS mode with the Xbox at 120 Hz, so that you get lower input lag, but you still get all the detail, and you don't have as many issues with frame rate drops. So now, also I can show you the same thing for Destiny 2. Alright, so right off the bat, I do want to say, looking at the lines here around the open director, that's just an easy way to tell that the TV is handling 4K 120 Hz properly. Now, Vincent Teo did show that in HDR there can be some posterization at 4K 120, but at least it's not the extent of the problems that the Sony X900H had of cutting the resolution in half, so we don't have to worry about that. That's gone. So, anyway, Destiny 2, the PvE side of things runs at 60 FPS, but in Crucible PvP, you can choose 120 FPS if you want. So I recommend, again, turn that off. There's a big graphical hit to the game if you turn that on. So, again, with no VRR, honestly, I think you're just better off have the game render at 60 FPS, but the Xbox output 120 Hz so that you get the lower input lag and you don't get any of the lowered image quality. Alright, now here in Forza, when you have games with these HDR sliders, again, you need to turn off HDR tone mapping, then adjust the slider, and then when you are done, you can turn it back to gradation preferred. And for this HDR brightness, the visible icon was visible for me, just with the camera it wasn't picking it up. As for the rest of your settings here, pretty much going to leave most of it alone. You want the peak luminance on high for HDR. Make sure your color is at Expert 1, it should be out of the box. Sharpness you can leave at 50, reality creation you can have that on. Smooth gradation, keep that off. Motion, off. If you want black frame insertion, which is going to cut your brightness, you can do that here, but I do not suggest that. Video signal, leave this all on auto, and that's it. Your Xbox is now set up for the new 2021 Sony OLEDs. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.